How to prevent clients from ghosting you. Hey, I'm Scott Peckford, and today this is a live session where I'm going to share with you some insights from coaching calls I've had in the last week. So something I started last week, and I was calling it the weekly broker breakdown, which doesn't even make sense. So I'm just going to call it coaching Q&A. And my whole goal here is to either give you conversations from coaching sessions I had, and maybe some point I may do them live where I have real coaching sessions with people, but who knows? Right now I'm going to do it just this way. So today I did a deep dive into discovery calls. I was doing some training with some of our agents, and I thought there'd be some things that you would find useful. If you've ever had clients ghost you, so you have that initial conversation, everything seems great, and they disappear. Why didn't they do the app? Why didn't they send you docs? And then even worse, they circle back to you, 30, 60 days later with an offer in hand and say, hey, can you get me financing? You've got 5 days or less to get me financing, and it's a nightmare. I'll tell you how to prevent that from happening. Also, if you ever get on a call and you're finding the client is actually just peppering you with questions and you find that you can't get into a rhythm, I'll tell you how to fix that as well. And then I'm going to give you the best opener that I personally think you should do on every single discovery call for every client from now until you decide to hang up your calculator. All right, before we jump into that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Omwell. Omwell is an amazing tool for Canadian mortgage brokers. It creates these amazing monthly reports that show equity and buying power, and they have great open rates, 60 to 80%. And the brokers who use these and in conjunction have conversations with their clients about the reports. They are generating tons of business and referrals. Check them out at omwell.ca/Scott. And let's dive into this episode. All right. So first things on a discovery call, you have to have a plan. You can't do these things and just kind of wing it and hope for the best. And when I was used to broker, I always had a checklist of all the things I needed to cover in that discovery call so that I wouldn't forget, because you do have to a little bit go with the rhythm of the call. Some people are going to come in at a certain spot, and I don't want to make it so rigid that you can. And maybe in another call, I will break down more of the details. Today, I just want to cover 3 key things. So the first is the first question you should ask. So if you get a call from a client and they reach out to you and they say, hey, Scott, I want to talk to you. Awesome. You get on that phone call. First thing I want to say to them, hey, look, Bob, you know what? Looking forward to chatting with you and see if I can help you. Just out of curiosity, how did you hear about me? And very important question, but there's a follow-up question to that. And I want them to tell me, and if it was a referral, then the next follow-up question is, awesome, what did Sally say? And the reason I want to do this is twofold. One, I want to hear what Sally has to say. How was she selling me? She's like, oh, Scott's amazing. Even if you got, terrible credit, he's going to help you out. I'm like, I don't want that client, frankly. And then I can go back and coach Sally or figure out what I'm saying to her. So you really want to ask, what did they say? At first, how did you hear about us? And then when they tell you the person, what did they say? The other thing is, if they say, oh, I saw your social media, ask, or it was something you posted, hey, which post stood out to you? Now you're figuring out which content actually drives that conversion and connection, and do more of that content. So you see why this is such a valuable question. And then the second thing, second underneath this, is that when they start telling you about what Sally said, or they start telling you about the content, they're actually selling themselves and working with you. So there's a psychological, they're leaning into making a micro commitment. So this is why it's so valuable to ask that question. First thing you should ask, and awesome. Then you got to set a frame. And the frame basically is whoever asks the questions is in control. If you sit there and the client's hammering you with questions, you're not in control. That client is running the call there. And I always say your job is to drive the bus. You have a process that you must follow. If you let them drive the bus, they will always crash it, and it will always be your fault. And you can't blame them because you let them have the steering wheel. Now, they can decide where they want to go, because that's what you should be doing, guiding them, but they don't know how this works. And so them asking questions and saying, well, let me ask you this. What's your rate? What's it? The call's already lost. So you need to set a frame at the beginning and say, hey, look, Bob, you know what? Based on what Sally said about you, it definitely sounds like I might be able to help you out. Here's what I need to do. I got to ask some questions just to understand where you are and where you want to go. And then I can let you know if we're even a fit, because I may not be. So does that sound fair? And then at the end, when most people, when you say a phrase like that, does that sound fair? 99.9% of people, except for psychopaths, will say, sure. As soon as they do that, they've given me permission. And then I'll usually add after that, hey, at the end, I'll make sure that you can ask me any questions you have. All right. And then now I've got the frame of the professional, the frame that I'm going to ask the questions. And then what happens is that I'm on this call with them. And now if they start to get off track, I'll say, hey, you know what? I'll get to that, I promise. But what I really need to know is, where are you at right now? What type of income do you have? So I'm going to bring them back. So you don't ever need to argue with them if they try to go off track. You sort of answer and deflect and go right back to your plan, which is, I need to understand where you are and where you want to go to even know if I can help you. And you think about this, like if you're a doctor and you're or even a mechanic, you can't really diagnose somebody without doing some looking under the hood. If somebody drives in with their car and says, what's wrong with my car? And you're like, well, let me have a look. No. I want you to just tell me. If you're a good mechanic, you should be able to know. I have no idea what's wrong with your car. Same thing with the doctor. If you go to see a professional, they'd say, I want to see your blood work. I want to do your blood test. I want to actually check your blood pressure. How am I supposed to know how to diagnose you based on that? And plus, people don't, if they just tell you, I don't trust what they tell me. I need to see what I can get in writing, right? Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. I trust that you think you know what you make, but I got to verify it before I'm going to use it and let you lean on that and rely on it in order to get you approved. So you're going to go through this whole question answering process, income, down payment, credit, what's the ideal scenario? I love a magic wand question. If I could wave a magic wand and get you exactly what you want, what would that look like? And then if they say, I want a house. Okay. So then the next question, I want to find about timing. If they say, if I'm looking to buy a condo, whatever, awesome. If you found the perfect condo, are you ready to proceed tomorrow? What kind of timeline are you on? I want to know if this person is just searching now going, oh, no, I can't buy yet. I'm waiting for a gift from my grandparents and it's 6 months away. Cool. That's good to know. But again, if you don't start asking good questions, you're not going to find these things. So again, at the front end, you're going to ask, how did you hear about me? What did they say? That's going to help you find out either content that's converting or conversations that are happening in advance. And then you're going to get them, they're going to sell themselves on you. The next step is you're going to set a frame. You're the professional. Do not let them. And even if you've only done 3 mortgages, it's more than most people have done because they do it once every 5 years and they've only ever seen the other side of it. So don't even worry about it. So you're going to ask questions to dig in. And then at the end, this is really important. This is how you're going to prevent getting people that have a conversation with you and then ghost you. The reason they do that, by the way, is that you give them enough information in that call that they think they know and they think that they're good to go. And they're not, because you haven't seen documents, you haven't seen application, you haven't seen credit, you have no idea. You don't know the 100 landmines that are in that application. And I personally would not give anybody a sense of what they qualify for without some commitment. The other thing is that if they don't want to give me that commitment, we're not working together. So if you wanted me to just make up numbers and say, oh yeah, I think I can do this, that, or the other thing, I have no idea. Like I'm a professional. I'm not going to do that. I don't do a bait and switch, and I will make sure that whatever I tell you, I'll stand behind, but that's only if I have documents in an application. So you get to the end of that conversation, you say, look, you know what, Bob, sounds like I'll be able to work with you based on what you said to me. Here's the next steps in the process. We need to schedule a strategy session. So this call should take about 15 minutes, by the way. And if you're good, 10 minutes, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And what you're going to do is you're going to schedule the strategy session before you do it, before you tell them about the app and the link and all the documents. I like to schedule it because people, if they don't have a deadline, they don't ever get around to it, right? So if you just say, hey, fill this out and then we'll have, so I like to book it, say, what's your schedule look like? Okay, I want to set up a strategy session to go through a pre-approval, to go through a budget worksheet, to work out all the numbers with you, to show you, or renewal refi, show you all your options. Does that sound good, Mr. Customer? Awesome. Great. Then what we're going to do is we're going to schedule that on Friday at 11. Fantastic. If there's anybody else that needs to be there, we'll make sure they're there. Hey, you know what? They got that scheduled in their calendar. Fantastic. Hey, Bob, just so you know, before that session, I'm going to send you a link with an application to fill out and some documents that I need in order to be able to do that strategy session. If I don't have them, I can't do it. That sounds good. Can you do that before Friday? Yeah. It shouldn't take you that much time. Yeah, no problem. Awesome. They just committed to getting it done, which means now you're going to get documents and application. It is not 100%. Nothing is ever 100%. The only thing is this is increasing your chances of getting those things that you need in order to actually properly serve them. And so then having that scheduled, and I think it's Dan Martell says is book a meeting from a meeting, bam, fam. So book a meeting. I booked a meeting from a meeting. This discovery call books to the strategy call. The mistake I see people make on discovery calls is they actually try to sell too much. They're trying to sell everything. Don't sell everything. Even if you've got a brilliant idea, save it, hint at it. Right? Like, so if somebody says to me, hey, Scott, like, here's a perfect example, came up today in our training session. It was on the call, the person had bought a property a little while ago and it was insured, CMHC insured property. If somebody's got a CMHC insurance on their current property and they're buying another property that's going to have insurance, they may be able to port their premium. Now, I'm not going to get into all explaining that in a discovery call. That's confusing. All I would say to that client then is, hey, look, you just bought this place and now you're looking at another one. That's fantastic. I may have an idea that could save you potentially thousands of dollars. And I've done it for other clients. I'll make sure that I explain that to you in the strategy session. They're like, what is this thousands of dollars? I want to know. They're going to show up to the strategy session. This is where I'm going to, and then if they don't want to get me docs and don't want to do app, we're not working together. We're pretending. We're like, yeah, we're pretending we're working together. We're not working together. And then I know. So that's what you do. You book a meeting from a meeting, but here's the key. Another key little strategy I got from my buddy, Alex McFadden. So the next day, if you don't see anything coming in, shoot them a text, say, hey, just confirming you got the link. Because maybe it went in their spam. They didn't see it. You're sitting there going, oh, they're not going to get back to me. Who knows what story you make up in your mind. But the truth is that you don't know. And so always text the day after. If you don't see anything coming in, hey, just confirm you got the links. And if they say yes, then you know that that's they put their hand up. But if they don't, like don't assume anything else as weird is going on. So that's just in a nutshell. So I'm kind of doing this in a short period of time because these episodes are supposed to be short. But the whole goal here is to help you get better at discovery calls. And so this all came up today in our coaching session. I thought hopefully find this useful. So I will wrap up with that. So I'll give you a quick recap. So always ask, how did you hear about me? What did they say? Or what content did you see? Again, that's going to reinforce. The next thing is you have to have the professional frame, right? You've got at the front of that thing, explain to them how this is going to work. Here's how this works. I'm going to ask some questions, find out if I can help you, if I'm even a fit. If I'm not, I promise to tell you. And then you can ask me any questions. If you just let that thing go any direction, it will be a catastrophe almost every time. And then the last part is don't try to sell too much in this meeting. All you're trying to do is get enough to get, maybe is there an opportunity here? Can you help them? And then sell them on the next step, book a meeting from a meeting. Hope you find that useful. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business someone else hasn't already solved. The goal is to find the solutions when you need them. This podcast is designed to provide some of those solutions. I hope you like these new episodes, these coaching Q&As. If you ever want to do a session with me, send me a note. Maybe we can chat. If it sounds like it would work, I could do a recording of some of the conversations. I don't mind doing that as well. Right now, I'm mostly taking them out of these coaching calls that I'm doing, but I'm open to it. Shoot me a note. If you have an interesting question or dilemma, I might be open to doing a session with you. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.